All right, we are recording for Chapter 13 of Star Trek 6 Undiscovered Country, and, I've looked just first few lines, just scanning of the epilogue. Maybe we'll get the questions answered that I really need answered because they're not answered in this, and that does annoy me. Also, there's a number of technical issues in this. I'll get to it. So like one, and it's not a horrible technical issue, but it's still a technical issue. That why is Kirk surprised when Chang doesn't even hail the ship, hail the Enterprise. It's basically he's just talking to the Enterprise. This is not explained, which in one way, fine. He might have just forced the communication channel open. All right. But later on, it is suggested that this is two-way communication. They can't mute themselves. Why the hell would you ever do that? That makes no sense. Unless it is, he's somehow forcing that the Enterprise computer is transmitting to him what's going on the bridge. It's like, that's a major problem. We can't have that. How can you even come with a rule? There shouldn't even be a suggestion of that. Because that is so significant a power to Chang. That's like, no, there are major consequences to that. Anyway, I just shouldn't be surprised that it's Chang, and there should be some level of control that the Enterprise has, but later on Spock is whispering so that nothing's heard. It's like, just mute the damn mic. Anyway. Be honest, Captain, warrior to warrior. Don't you prefer it this way, as was meant to be? No peace in our time. Once more onto the breach, dear friends. Before Gorkon's death, Jim thought, ashamed, I might actually have agreed with you. He glanced at her, but she shook her head. No chance of a trace. Kirk hit the intercom control. Our time is over, Chang. History won't stand still for the likes of either of us. It's like, okay, yeah, he hit the button, turned on, but later on, it's just Spock is whispering. It's like, why are you keeping the channel open? Just mute the damn mic. But yeah, I do have the technical issue here of, okay, why can't she get a trace? Because phone here, right? Now, true, it is technically broadcasting out a signal in all directions, but it still is you can triangulate where it is. I mean, it's like that is one thing that in law enforcement and such will do, that how strong is the signal to different towers? We know the fixed positions of the towers. If we know the strength of the signal this is connecting to, then we can figure out where it is. It's like, that is something that the Enterprise should be capable of. But if the bird of prey is the source of the transmission. Now, if it's not the source, and this, you can do this. In theory, let's say Kittimer has a moon, and that they are having a very focused beam that's hitting the moon and sending back out. That would work. Because the moon would cause it to reflect in all directions. Okay? So you would not be able to trace it then, or at least not easily. You might be able to figure the math out going back. It's still not going to be easy. And if it's constantly moving, no. You could also have buoys that are repeating the signal. You could do that, so you're only seeing the buoys then. That works. There's never an explanation like that. And I'm technical enough. Also, I've got a story I've been thinking through some of this stuff for. So it's like, no, this is a thing. This is a problem. So yeah, just lots of technical issues in this. We have this it is not a style issue. It kind of is, but I am saying it's not. Just declaring it is not. Excelsior shuddered as though trying to shake herself apart. That's up here. And low down, Loger, the helmsman, swiveled in alarm. She'll fly apart, because Sulu's ordering them to increase speed. And it's like, you're repeating yourself here. Excuse me. The Excelsior shudders, though trying to shake herself apart, and then she'll fly apart. It's like, don't do that. Use different words, right? Like, I'm just trying to think. She'll shake herself to pieces. You could even do that. Because then it's still the same concept. Shake yourself to pieces and fly apart. So now it is like genuinely two separate voices trying to say the same thing. But I mean, it's so close. It is repetition, and I hate it. In this context, repetition is fine for certain things. Like I know I've repeated things, but that was when I'm writing. But I actively try to avoid it unless I'm trying to emphasize it. I cannot remember what I was specifically saying, but there is a chapter in the Show Money Gifts where Constance is approaching a house and she is thinking through if she wants to enter or not. And just, I do have things being repeated there, but it's to repeat that she's thinking about this. She is still stepping forward. She is still progressing, but it's still, she is thinking about this. It is dwelling on her. So I'm repeating that to emphasize what's going on there. So it makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. There's no benefit gained. There's no storytelling achieved here by repetition. It just seems lazy. Or is lacking in much literacy. That's not a great way to put it either. A way to increase your vocabulary is to read more. Yeah. Well, also probably to read and then try to write down stuff. I mean, there are definitely people that they will, like, there's an interesting word, they'll just write it down in a journal or something to remember that, then potentially use it in the future. There's also, of course, you can go back to the elementary school days of just, you find a word, oh, that's interesting, look it up, and then you just have to write it out in sentences so many times to get used to using and integrate into your vocabulary. But either way, it's like trying to have a broader vocabulary so you can avoid that repetition is helpful. It also is helpful because sometimes you end up reading stuff where it's like, I don't know these words. What do they mean? So, as Burr is talking, and I actually do like what she says here. Cartwright is still an asshole, because we're following his perspective for this. But she's saying here, and there's a little bit more to it than this, but a little bit more before, but it's fine. Great men are seldom good. Hang on. I'm just trying to check, because it's great men are seldom good, she's saying here. The truth is, my father was both, a pragmatist and an idealist. If Praxis had not exploded, quite possibly his idealism would not have found expression, nor would mine. We are a proud race. We are here because we intend to go on being proud. Her expression grew grim. If we cannot make war, we will make peace. Maybe I actually should have read the part before. So, many people speculated about my father's motives. There were those who said he was an idealist, driven by visionary notions. Others said he had no choice, that he was a pragmatic technocrat, making the best of a devastating situation. Great men are seldom good. The truth is, my father was both. So she is, just, some people say this, but you know what? No, he was both. He was both, and he was pragmatically taking advantage of the situation, but he also had that ideal, and he sees it as, I can finally achieve it. So do like that. And also the line, we are a proud people. We are here because we intend to go on being proud. I think some of that is in the movie. And it's like, I don't know the best way to put this. I, for one reason or another, am sensitive to culture. So, for example, when I was reading In Return of the Jedi, and when we get, unfortunately, because I don't record as I'm reading, I just am making notes. But in my notes, when I was reading in there, 3PO, Han, and Luke trying to convince the Ewoks to join them and help, I recognized as I was reading it, none of them was saying something that the Ewoks would care about, because none of it connects to their culture at all. But then get to Leia, and she just says, tell them to do it for the trees. I'm like, yes, thank you. This is trying to say something to them that would make sense to their culture. Because Ewoks, they live amongst the trees. They use wood. They certainly use other products from trees. So trees are very important to them. So it's like, yes, you're speaking to the culture. Awesome. Making that note. I'm so happy to see that. Then I keep reading, and holy shit, we get to Wicket giving a speech. And it's like, I am learning so much about his culture from this speech. It was awesome. I loved it. In Search for Spock, getting from Krug so much about Klingon culture there. It's like, I love it. It's great. It kind of it kind of kept that book from being as high as really peaking as much as Wrath of Khan did, I feel. But I mean, it was still a very good book. That's an easy recommendation for me to make. It's not a strong recommendation like Wrath of Khan. It's a 3, not a 4. But still, it's like that Search for Spock. I love the culture there. And I appreciate this, because we are a proud race. We are here because we intend to go on being proud. It's like, yes, good. That is a good thing. We want you to have that. We don't want to strip that away from you. If we did, we'd just go to war. We want peace with you, and we want you to have a peace that you will be proud of. As far as the whole war stuff, maybe we can figure out a way to divert that. Like, hey, sports are good. It is actually kind of a good question of how do they turn to that, or maybe just trying to get I don't know about trying to have the Klingons explore, because that's technically then do you want to turn the Klingons into playing a 4X game? That might not be the best idea. But still, I appreciate this, because it is you need to respect the culture. Then we get this that I didn't highlight. But still, Cartwright listened, as enthralled as the rest of the crowd by Azad Burr's charismatic presence. He had nothing against her personally. In fact, she was actually quite attractive, in a vulgar Klingon sort of way. Certainly she possessed a certain dignity, a regalness, that most of them lacked. It was almost a pity to have to watch her die, but then it was all for the best. And then I do have a highlight here. Cartwright shifted in his chair to watch as the Klingon moved into position. This is in contradiction to his statement later, however, because it does describe, and in the movie you do know that he kind of goes into an alcove that isn't visible from anywhere. So, and earlier it was talking about the guy approaching the lector. None of those line up. So, yeah, it's quite a problem. Because approaching the lector and say, okay, Cartwright should be able to see that. But if he's up there in this alcove that's overlooking, no, he's not going to be able to see that. But there's also just the sliminess, and I think there's a good way to put it, for the whole, nothing against her personally. In fact, she was actually quite attractive in a vulgar Klingon sort of way. And just the whole, that is slimy, because it's like, oh yeah, she doesn't look all that bad for a Klingon. I mean, and also in a vulgar Klingon sort of way. It's like, and let me be clear, I think we can, yes, vulgar was definitely chosen for the word there, because he is being insulting. He is degrading her. That is exactly what he's doing. That's why it's slimy. But there's also vulgar. I know it is in Latin. It might predate Latin, though I don't know if it may actually come from another language first. But vulgar also means common. So, like, yeah, that's really the best example I can think of. But, so in a common Klingon sort of way would be another way to take it, that he basically doesn't see that, no, she is, for a Klingon, likely very well adorned, because she needs to be impressive as the High Chancellor. That does include how you are adorned. It's kind of like you expect presidents to be dressed in well-fitted suits, and also well-maintained suits, so there should never be a threat out of place kind of thing. Kings you expect to be like in appropriate robes, potentially with sashes, medals on them if appropriate, crowns, things like that. So it is, she should not be common or vulgar in any way. But there's also this issue that's, again, it was almost a pity to have to watch her die, but then it was all for the best. Later on, though, when Kirk gets there, he's rushing to the president of the Federation. Mr. President, he's doing that. There's never been a setup. It makes sense that the Federation president would be targeted, not her. But it's never set up that, no, the target is him. It makes sense, as I said, but never set up. And even Cartwright is like, oh, I'm going to have to watch her die here. It's like, so even for what he knows, she's the target. But then later it's just, Mr. President, it's like, technical issues abound. I'm going to pause briefly because I need to get a drink of water. Yeah, I mean, and here's some more of the technical issues. Some are, well, not exactly in-universe technical issues, but it is a writing issue. Keep him talking. We're back to the Enterprise. Keep him talking, Spock murmured, but Uhura shook her head. They're moving too much to get a fix on. Then you are able to trace. I'm sorry, it's also stupid because, like, if you're able to, as he's talking, track where they are, even if you are lagging behind, it's still, so you can have an idea of where they are going. Like, there's still a direction you can start trying to fire around there. So, yeah, this is still helpful. So you got a contradiction there. Goes on a little bit because basically she and Spock are talking about how they can identify where it is. What about heat? Her ass still trying. Not from any real distance. The cap. Oh well, yeah. Kirk's also trouble. The captain said she won't show up on any type of scan. Too bad we can't smell her. McCoy sighed. Chekhov half swiveled to join the conversation. His expression one of glum resignation. In space, no one can hear you sweat. Okay, I appreciate the Alien reference. I really do. Great movie. I'm good with that being in there. But I don't like that they're basically broadcasting at this point, and it's a while. It's yeah, it is the next page, and so after plenty of other stuff happens, that it's like, it's just hammering home the idea of the plasma, the ionized gas. Totally unnecessary to do this, though, because we get, the too bad we can't smell her sweat. A pity starships were never equipped with bloodhounds. Okay, then it finally. Well, nope, actually, no, it's not it. Captain, Spock said, sensors reveal faint traces of plasma. So he's seeing it now in his sensor. So it's like it takes 3 comments about if only we could smell them. Then finally, he sees essentially the scent on the water. He sees. And then we can finally get to, under impulse power, Spock told him quietly, too quiet for those aboard the Klingon vessel to hear, which, that's nonsense. Why wouldn't they just mute the mic? But it takes that long before we finally get to. He doesn't actually say it this way, but in the movie it's gas. What? Gas. Ionized gas. Whatever the. Yeah, we call it plasma. Whatever the Klingon term for it is, it's simply ionized gas. And under, what's the, hang on. Under normal, no, I don't quite remember, but basically saying that because they're using their engines, they're releasing plasma, we can just try to track that. But yeah, so blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we call plasma. I do not know its Klingon name, but by any designation is merely ionized gas. The tremendous power drain caused by simultaneous use of the cloaking device and the weapon system cannot be without cost. We don't actually know that for certain, by the way. Perhaps they must reduce cloaking power shortly before firing, which would explain the traces of plasma, Kirk finished. Precisely. They may be unable to completely cloak the exhaust products of their impulse engines. But accurate targeting will prove difficult. It's like, okay, so many technical errors here, especially with what follows. Because, for one thing, perhaps they must reduce cloaking power shortly before firing. Problem is, it's found after the ship the torpedo hits the thing after it had fired, not before. Okay, it does, in fact, just track it, and it even, they dodge it, but because they're using impulse power, it's producing more of the gas, and so it hits it. It's like, but they're under normal cloak. They don't even have the shields up, which is another thing. Get to that. But they're not using their weapons at the time. So this thing is, like, no. None of that makes sense. It's like, the torpedo hits it outside of the scenario that they're putting forward here. But it's also, you're cloaking the exhaust? What? Why? Why would anyone think it's a waste product? That's what you always forget about. And it does also make me wonder a little bit, because like with a submarine, can you actually pick up like the heat produced by the screws turning in the water by the engine? I was like, could that possibly be a way to pick? I mean, I guess maybe if it may just depend on how close you are, but it's still, because I mean, in theory, the satellite can pick up heat blooms in submarines, but that's only if they're either not submerged, blanking what the surfaced, I guess, or not submerged very deeply. But it's like, what? You're not. And also, are you suggesting that they're maintaining a cloak on the plasma that's leaving the ship as the ship is going this way? It's like, how the heck are you managing? This is nonsense, okay? Far more reasonable, infinitely more reasonable, especially for what you need here, is the plasma is not at all being cloaked. It's just being released. But the thing is, it's hot, but it's under pressure. It's going to disperse. It may keep some heat, but the density is going to drop so that you're not picking that up. So it's just you need to actually find the ionized gas somehow, and then you can trace that. So it's just hard to find, because it is going to disperse rapidly. So it's like, that's what you can do, and that works. The cloak is completely irrelevant to this. Any ship this would happen for. But then you also have the problem of, okay, well, what about the Enterprise? What about Excelsior? Okay, Excelsior, you might be able to address that. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. But Excelsior, you can address as simply as, it's over there, we're over here. It's the ship is likely, and the bird of prey is likely over here. So if we fire it, it shouldn't go to Excelsior. That's too far away. What about the Enterprise? We just need to be at a dead stop so that there's no impulse plasma being produced. Or it has been produced, but it's already dispersed. This thing won't pick it up. It's just the bird of prey moving, because that is one thing that is stated, even in the previous chapter. It's firing and then it's moving. So even if they could track back to where it had fired the shot, it's already gone from there. Okay? So you're actually exploiting the fact that it is moving. So the Enterprise stops dead. The plasma isn't being actively produced, and it has dispersed. The torpedo will not hit the Enterprise. But the bird of prey keeps moving. It's like, okay, now it all works out. You can solve all that. But instead, the issues of how does it not to target the Starfleet ships, ignored. This explanation for the plasma apparently coming out just in puffs behind the bird of prey, depending on when it fires, is just nonsense and not even what happens. So science fiction is supposed to be technical. Okay? It's supposed to have, these are the rules that things work by. Some of them are just, this is how normal physics works. I don't need to tell you that. Some of it is okay, I'm inventing this for the story. I am telling you how it works. I must now obey these rules. You're telling me how this works. You then disobey it a few pages later. It annoys the hell out of me. Alright. Oh, it gets worse. That's right. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the portal equipment is in the science lab for atmospheric analysis. That's it then, McCoy said cheerfully. Pretty delicate work, though, and Scotty's tied up in engineering right now. He started for the lift. I'm going to perform surgery on Torpedo. You never know. Spock glanced at the captain after receiving a nod accompanying McCoy. You may need assistance, Doctor. No. The movie is far better. Okay? Because Uhura is like, we've got that stuff for cataloging gaseous anomalies, and then it's like the light bulb for Spock that this can be done. It's like, Doctor, would you like to assist me in performing surgery on a Torpedo? Fascinating. We do get the line of fascinating here, by the way. As the lift doors open, McCoy gave the Vulcan a sly glance. Fascinating. Which is a very good line there, but it's like, no, Spock is the one who's qualified for doing this. Bones has the surgical skills, yes, but he doesn't know a damn thing about how a torpedo works. He's not going to be able to connect any of these. Does the red wire go with the red wire with the blue wire? He has no idea what the hell he's doing. Why would that? No. Spock is the one going. The brevity of the movie is better for the storytelling, and it just makes sense as Spock doing it. What's this next highlight? Oh yeah, as they're going, so they've grabbed this stuff. And this line, well, okay. Bet you wish you stood in bed. Uh, Bones says that's in the movie, I believe. The brow arched even higher on Spock. I see no profit in standing in bed, Doctor. Vulcans sleep lying down. And then they actually go on to explain that this was an ungrammatical colloquialism, a vulgar term, basically just a common term, for where he grew up, with all the kids in the neighborhood would say stood to mean stayed. Okay, he almost snapped, so I goofed. You have to be so damn lit. And then he saw the glint in the Vulcan's eyes. Spock, he said with dawning amazement, that was actually funny. Not really. It doesn't help that it so much distance is between. I mean, it's like, if instead, we sleep lying down, if it had then gone immediately to, okay, he almost snapped, so I goofed. Do you have to be so damn lit? And then it dawns on him, Spock, that was actually kind of funny. It's like, then you do it. But you're lingering on it. You're giving the explanation here. It's like, it was a joke. I mean, don't linger on jokes like that. Well, don't linger while giving the explanation for the joke, because it kills the joke. And it's not like, oh, well, it's Spock. Spock doesn't tell jokes. So even though I recognize this as a joke, I know it cannot be a joke because it's Spock. Oh, wait, then we see it is a joke. Oh, well, I guess I can laugh now. Ha 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 ha. How do you expect people to read this? People are going to read and be like, oh, oh, okay, that's kind of a joke. We're getting like, yeah, and now we get all this explanation. Like, oh, it is actually a joke. I tell jokes by accident better when I'm writing than this. And that's actually kind of a true story. I did once for one of the books. A friend of mine actually read at least part of it. I'm still kind of surprised by that. But said that she laughed when reading this one part, and it's like, really? That's never meant to be humorous. It was just a thing. It made sense that this would happen for technical reasons. Huh. Alright. Moving on. I mean, it's like, okay. I don't know about any jokes I've intentionally tried to place, but anyhow. Moving on, what the hell is this? Oh, yeah, there is a way to qualify this so that it makes sense. But, as it is, this is just stupid. So let's read it. In one sense, Valeris' twisted philosophy had been logical. He, Spock, was working now to destroy a Klingon, just as Valeris had done. He was killing in order to bring about peace. But he was destroying the destroyers. She had killed in order to perpetuate war. He would kill in order to perpetuate peace. Okay. This is stupid. That is not accurately summarizing the situation at all. Okay? He is not committing murder. He is not assassinating. In fact, he is actively trying to defend himself. Yes, it does mean he is going to kill Chang, or at least is contributing to his death, but for simplicity, I'll say Spock is killing Chang. But Chang is the aggressor. Spock is acting in defense of himself, and also in defense of Azit Burr, because he knows that they can get there to try to save her life. Chang is part of the conspiracy to assassinate her. So, like, I'm simplifying things that Spock is killing Chang. Chang is killing Azit Burr, or the Federation president, we really don't know. Because, anyway, Chang is doing that. So by killing Chang, you're actually saving yourself, which is completely legitimate. It's called self-defense, and defense of another, as Ed Burr. There is it is not in any way an equivalence here. You're not doing this to perpetuate peace. I mean, that will be the ultimate, that is your ultimate desire, and is the goal you ultimately do achieve. But you're defending yourself. Now, if it were given here, a reminder of Vulcan pacifism, okay, that this is something that Valeris utterly rejects and Spock does accept. If you give that qualification, then you can have Spock having to see it as not a matter of self-defense, because the point is even made that Surak's teachings don't necessarily allow for that. Which is stupid, which is why I had previously made the comment it would be interesting if Vulcan looking into just war theory, but in any case. Excuse me. But it's still, it's just, we don't have that set up here. So the context, without that context there, this is just Spock is considering killing to preserve your own life, the life of your friends, and the life of an assassination target by killing the person who's trying to kill you and is trying to assassinate somebody. These are very different things. Right? They are not relatively, I mean, there's no relativism here that should be applied. It is literally bad guy, assassin, murderer. I am trying to stop him. That ceases to be murder. Okay? That's and save myself. No. By the way, the whole of the scene, this whole scene and such is better in the movie. Partly because, yeah, you get the visuals, but it is like, there's no mention of the hull being breached, none of that. But it's also in the whole lock and load, Jim, which even that, leading up to that, is not as well described, I feel. But Kirk held his breath because it's like fire. Kirk held his breath and watched as it took a looping, hesitant trajectory. No way to know until the very last second if the damn thing worked. And it's just, this is not, it's not really supporting the tension of the scene very well, how that's written, especially not after all this stuff. Yeah. Just, oh yeah, also there was that. Thank you, nurse. Bones is saying to Spock, Jim, she's ready, lock and load. It's just how that, everything up to that, pity we're retiring just as I was starting to understand you, Spock. We were beginning to hit and then the ship gets hit. And it's like, there's so much lagging here, so much lingering that it's just, progression and strategy are important to action scenes like this. And we do have that happening. But the pacing is so slow, and it's really making it kind of boring. Also, Chang is an idiot, which is in the next part here. Aboard the Dracnon, Chang smiled at the Enterprise's feeble attempt to fire blindly. She was no threat. Indeed, he saw no reason to waste the power necessary to raise the Dracron's shields. Okay, I got a problem here. Because I hate the whole, they just need extra power to handle cloaking and firing at the same time. Because cloak and warp have gone together before. This is the only time that we get cloak and weapons. But cloak and I'm pretty sure those have traditionally been mutually exclusive in Star Trek. I know in Stargate they are mutually exclusive because it's basically the cloaking device is tied into a ship's shields. There's also the whole shields are being projected out, so you'd think that would also be an energy signature that could be picked up. But in any case, it still is. I don't recall there ever being a time where a cloaked ship has its shields up as well. That those are treated as mutually exclusive. Apparently not here, though. Just, yeah. But it's also, why would he ever, I mean, in the movie, the moment the torpedo is fired, he gets up. Because it's like, what the hell? Why did they just, because that needs to be his thinking. Why would they do that? Because if he were blind fire, they have shot the Enterprise so many times, its shields are buckling. Why are they only now firing? Like, why would you be like, this one torpedo after minutes of conflict, that's them blind firing? It's like, what are you talking about? If they were blind firing, they would have been doing that earlier. Okay, they would have been just trying to. It's like, you fire and then it's like, oh, we think you were there, but he already moved. You would do that. And that's easy enough to write in here, too. As I already said, he's firing and then moving. He's firing and then moving. So it's like he's constantly moving. And that works. We can take advantage of that here. But in here, it's like constantly miss. You could do that. But instead, we don't. It's just, oh, this is the one shot. That's blind fire. And he's just totally dismissive of it. There's also this line, certain concerning Excelsior being there. Certainly he could not fault the captain of Excelsior for coming to a former commander's aid, especially in such dangerous circumstances. But in a prior chapter, it was indicated that Kirk wasn't aware that Sulu's in command of the Excelsior. Why the hell would Chang know it and Kirk not? Because it's not written well. Alright, so finally they realize, oh shit, this thing is actually tracking us. Huh, how's it doing that? Then move out of its way, Chang ordered with an air of impatience, though his heartbeat quickened. Impulse power. So this is where, Helmsman complied, kind of sighed as they neatly sidestepped the oncoming warhead. The torpedo paused, which doesn't make much sense, circled once more, then slowly turned and pursued the Drakon. So it's like, okay. Pausing I don't like, but if it were just like pausing in its maneuvers, where it's like, it's still moving, it's like, oh, it missed, and then it's just like continuing that way, so it's not doing anything weird, and then it circles around and comes and gets it. It's like, okay. But still, it's all impulse power. So it missed. But then it picks it back up again because they just use impulse. They're producing more plasma. Except what you said earlier was that plasma is cloaked unless it's firing, which they're not. There's no description of them doing that here. There's no description of them preparing for that here. It's just like, you're breaking your own rules. Now, true, it was a stupid rule, but still, it's the rule you gave yourself and you're breaking it here. The movie does it so much better, because if you just, it's just they're constantly putting out the plasma, but it's a waste product, no one really cares, it rapidly disperses. But this thing, it's able to pick up enough of a trail, and then as it gets closer, because the gas is going to be close together then, they figure it out. And also, I said, Excelsior's far enough away, it's fine. Enterprise just needs to dead stop, so it won't be picked up, because it'll never get a high enough concentration of the plasma for the torpedo to know it's that. And who knows, maybe you can also have the torpedoes able to recognize Starfleet ships. Be like, oh, that's not it, move on. But no, none of that. Because, I mean, just, if you did, then it's also impulse power. Like, use that to dodge. It's like, yes, that's going to move you out of the way, but it's exactly what it's tracking. It's like, that would have been good. You could really construct and be like, you have actually defeated yourself because of your constant moving around. We also get this that annoys me. Aim for the center of that explosion and fire, Sulu ordered. In the back of his mind, he was stunned by the Klingon commander's hubris. The bird had not even attempted to raise shields. Again, I'm pretty sure shields and cloak have always been mutually exclusive in Star Trek, so that's not really an appropriate thing to say there. And it also just felt unnecessary as well, but yeah. Granted, though, Chang is completely completely arrogant here. In the book, definitely that. Less so in the movie. I mean, he's arrogant, but an issue with the arrogance, an issue with the hubris, is that should make him an incompetent commander. Instead, he's not. So he should not be a commander. He is a senior general. Okay? Excuse me. He is very experienced. In no way should he be incompetent. So, yeah, it's stupid. Okay, now we get to Admiral Cartwright's Klingon found his way easily up a back lift to a deserted alcove overlooking the speaker's dais. Here, for all except the critical second, he could remain sheltered from the spectator's view. Except that, you said earlier that Cartwright is seeing him get into position, so it's like, well, he can't see him. So moving on a little bit. And by the way, this scene at this point, where they're on Kittimer and Kirk is beamed down and all that, is... It's very threading that it's just, this happens, this is. It's not a, this happens, and this is why. This happens, this is why. This happens, this... No, it's just, this happens, this is... He beams down. And by the way, it's not just Ezra Burr and the Federation president. It's also Admiral Smiley, so the Starfleet CNC is up there as well. He starts charging, and what is he yelling? Mr. President! Why? Everything that has been suggested leading up to this is Ezra Burr will be the target. Not him. Not the president. But it's also, with all three there, and there is even... Man. Oh, here it is. It's actually a little after. The president started and stared at him in utter shock. A perfect target, Jim thought. 3 powerful people all at once. So why is he only focused on the Federation president? Nothing is set up that he's the actual target. It makes more sense for him to be the target than Ezra Burr. It really does. Because if it's also Ezra Burr, then what that is, that's only going to provoke the Klingons, right? That's like 2 successful attempts against the Klingon Empire. That's a problem. Especially, I mean, 2. You're using a Klingon here, right? Or at least some, well, in this, there's no indication that it is a human dressed as a Klingon, like in the movie. I think that makes more sense, but anyway. But I like that being the situation. That's who they have, that's what they're doing. But anyhow. But a Klingon killing the Federation president, that's going to be way more inflammatory. Because the Klingons are inflamed at Gorkon's death. Now the Federation can be inflamed at their president's death. So Cartwright can speak up and do so. But it's also, if Smiley were killed, that's again a way to inflame the Federation, and Cartwright might then be able to step up, assume command, and push them into war. That also would make a lot of sense. So yeah, Smiley and the president would actually be the 2 better targets than Ezra Burr. But still, we've only had Ezra Burr set up until this point. Kirk is just yelling to the president, even though there's nothing setting up that he believes that's the target. I mean, it just... Yeah. I did appreciate this, because he's rushing there, and he's like, okay, my officers are taking care of things so that I don't get shot by security. Probably a good thing, or an over-anxious Klingon. Although, to be fair, why would a Klingon do that? Because it's a secure site. No one is supposed to have weapons. Like, a point was even made that the rifle that the dude is using had to be specially constructed to get through security. So, I mean, there would just be security. Some of them might be Klingon security, but it would just be security present. And why would they use kill instead of stun as well is also a question. But anyhow, he's like, okay, my officers are going to go around and keep the conspirators from fleeing. At the other end of the room, Bones did his part to stop some. With Jim noted delightedly, the enthusiastic, if overly physical help of Brigadier Curler. I like this, okay? I do. Because Curler getting his due here to show that, no, he is not a conspirator. I like that. Okay? I mean, let me also be clear. Part of it is not just, oh, I like that they set up Ezra and him together. It's like, it's not just that. It's not like shipping them. It is in the movie even, like when he gets a transporter after Kirk and Bones beam on to Kronos 1, he goes, have you lost your minds? There's a certain passion to Curler. There's like, no, this isn't, he's not a conspirator. He is like, why would you do this and why would you come here? He's like genuinely baffled by this. He's not seeing it as a situation to take advantage of, like a conspirator. It's like getting that confirmation here and him even being helpful. It's like, I like it. I do like it. Kirk speaks a little bit as Burr finally lights up. He's like fully realizing things. You restored my father's faith. You restored my son's, which is not a great line actually, because we've not had set up in this about how David was a fool, was very naive in his belief of universal peace. But that is definitely, if you go and read More so Search for Spock. It's definitely in Wrath of Khan as well, but more so I want to say in Search for Spock with his dislike for Starfleet getting involved with Genesis so late. Well, after the Genesis torpedo stuff. Him being so naive, and him with the Grissom commanding officer on Enterprise would be in Chapter 1, I think, maybe Chapter 2, of Search for Spock. It's like, if we'd gotten a reminder of that, great. But instead it's just, you've restored my sons. Mm-hmm. But then what follows after this is... He and Azabur embraced each other in shared grief and joy, and for a time neither heard the resounding applause. It's like, okay. I'm good with an embrace. Okay, I will hug my friends. I like doing that. I like hugging my friends. She's Klingon, though. I don't see her hugging anyone. Well, outside of romantic relationship, okay? I don't like this. It's just, it feels odd, because they had only met a few days prior, and during that time, she believed that, well, her father was killed, she believed it was Kirk who killed him, and she, watched on as he was tried, convicted, sentenced for that. Yeah, I'm not, not so good with that. One other thing that I think I put in my notes, I don't remember. I've not really been saying my notes. I haven't needed to. This is definitely one of those where my criticisms are just, all I need to do is see the highlights and I remember. In the movie, the Federation president fairly often has spectacles that he puts on. They look like sunglasses. Well, sun spectacles, I guess, because I don't recall if they actually had the earpieces. There's an actual term for this part. I'm totally blanking what it is. But he puts those on, takes them off, and doesn't. There's also certain times when he says things, when he does things, like when Kirk is yelling and he's standing at the dais and he's just like that. In the movie, he's actually blind. Those glasses, those spectacles, are for him to see. Okay, so it's sort of a precursor to Geordi's visor, right? There's nothing about that in the book at all, which I find a little curious. Why would they decide to do that in the movie but not have it in the book? But yeah, you do. If you pay attention, there are certain times. Like, why is he putting on dark spectacles to read something in front of him? Like paperwork put in front of him. That doesn't make sense. Well, it's so that he can actually see, because he's normally blind. There is that, as I said, wait, somebody's yelling, I'm hearing all these sounds, what's going on? And he's just trying to localize things. Like, okay. I think that there's some other times as well when you just see a certain... I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. When it's just, the whole, like, his eyes aren't tracking people kind of thing, where he, in the movie, where it's like, yeah, it's not completely obvious, because the actor, I don't believe, was blind, so... And it can take effort to learn to act blind. But it's... just... There are signs in the movie for that. Nothing in the book. But also, that does remind me, and I do just want to mention, very good movie, Wait Until Dark. Let me actually quickly look this up. Wait Until Dark. It is available on Blu-ray via the Warner Archive. 1967. Yeah, allow some of that stuff. Okay. You can rent or purchase it streaming on Amazon. That's a little disappointing. So you might just want to buy it. It is a very good movie. Audrey Hepburn movie. Which actually does play a blind woman. And she did spend time with... I think it is a Braille Institute? I'm not sure. But an actual prestigious institute for teaching blind people how to live. Well, not exactly how to live. But, how to... Well, yeah, kind of live in a world that is... for sighted people. She spent a lot of time with that, and I think she actually got special accolades or special awards specifically for her very good job portraying a blind woman, and it is a very good movie, and it is all the sharper because of the whole. It's a thriller, okay, and part of it is she's a woman, and it's Audrey Hepburn. She's not an imposing woman, not physically, and she's blind, and she has at one point two guys who are. They can threaten her. They're not really doing that physically, but then a time when no, a guy who has in fact already murdered multiple people is in her apartment. She's trapped in there with him, and she has to somehow defend herself from this murderer. It is an intense film in some ways. It is very good. She does a very good job. But she spent the time. She made the effort, a lot of effort, to do it right. I don't know if the actor for this did, but also it's not as important. He's not quite an important enough character in the movie to do that. But anyhow, blah 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 blah. Ramble. That's what I do, amongst other things. Hey, I'm just trying to check on something. I think, by the way, when you see like right there's a little dark over my head. I think that's my speaker being. I have a speaker up on a wall there. Other times it's the headrest. But yeah. All right. I'm done. See you next time for the epilogue. I'll probably remember to mention it then as well. But I will say it now also. I'm going to be taking a break from doing the videos for a while. I want to work on writing up reviews for the previous books that I've done. Also, I'm hoping to figure out a new schedule-ish, sort of, so that I can find more time for writing. But yeah, so don't expect, after the next video, don't expect one immediately following that. I'm going to be focused on some other stuff for a little bit. I do fully intend, I like doing these. It takes a lot of time. I want to figure out a better way of doing it, and maybe do some, considering some other tweaks I may do, but it might be a while. It takes me about a week to write a review. Might be a little bit faster because it's been longer, but I will then also have to be not just relying on memory, but going through notes, all that stuff. So yeah, fun stuff. But yeah, see you next time.